Let me tell you about the biggest lie you've ever been sold. You think rich people look rich. You think wealth has a uniform, designer clothes, luxury cars, the right zip code, the right watch. And because you believe that lie, you're destroying your future every single day. Here's the truth nobody wants you to know. The people who actually have money, they look like they don't. The people who look like they have money, they're usually drowning in debt they can't escape. There's a guy I know who drives a 2011 Honda Civic. Paint's faded, there's a dent in the back. It looks like something a college kid would drive. His coworkers see that car and they pity him. They think he's barely making it. They think one flat tire away from financial collapse. Write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is so I can get to know you better. To support the channel for free, don't forget to subscribe and like. He has $4.2 million in index funds. And you know what the crazy part is? He's not special. Research from the Millionaire Next Door found that the average price millionaires pay for their cars is $31,367. Experian did a study that found 61% of people earning over $250,000 drive Hondas, Toyotas, or Fords. Not luxury brands, not status symbols. Cars that look like they belong to normal people. Meanwhile, 8% of people making less than $100,000 are driving luxury vehicles. They're financing $60,000 cars on $50,000 salaries. One group looks successful. The other group actually is successful. And I'm going to tell you right now, those two groups almost never overlap. This video isn't about being cheap. It's not about depriving yourself. It's about understanding a game that most people lose without ever realizing they were playing. Looking poor might be the most valuable financial decision you ever make. And I'm going to prove it to you. You've been programmed since birth to believe that success is visible, that if someone's really made it, you should be able to tell just by looking at them. That programming is bankrupting you. Because the research tells a completely different story. The people who build actual wealth don't act anything like the people who perform wealth. Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent decades studying American millionaires. What they found destroyed every stereotype. 80% of millionaires didn't inherit a dime. They built it from scratch. Half of them have been living in the same house for over 20 years. They're more likely to be driving a pickup truck than a Porsche. And here's what shocked the researchers. They found millionaires concentrated in average neighborhoods, blue-collar areas, middle-class suburbs, not the zip codes everyone assumes. Why? Because high-earning professionals burn their money on image. They need you to know they've succeeded. The bigger house, the nicer car, the designer everything. They're performing wealth, not building it. Real wealth builders see money differently. They understand that every dollar you spend impressing strangers is a dollar you can't invest. And that dollar, over 30 years, could it become $10, $20, $50? They've done the math, and the math is unforgiving. Dave Ramsey studied millionaire behavior and found the same pattern. The #1 car brand driven by millionaires? Toyota. #2, Honda. #3, Ford. BMW doesn't show up until 6th place. Mercedes doesn't even make the list. Jeff Bezos drove a Honda Accord when he was already a billionaire. Mark Zuckerberg drove an Accurate TSX. Warren Buffett lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. These people can afford anything they want. They choose not to want it. And that choice is what separates them from everyone else.
Let me explain something about human psychology that's costing you everything. Over 100 years ago, a sociologist named Thorstein Veblen figured out that people don't buy things for their function. They buy things for their signal. Nobody needs a $50,000 watch. It doesn't tell time any better than a $50 watch. What you're buying is the story the watch tells about you, the status it broadcasts, the superiority it signals. Luxury brands aren't selling you products, they're selling you identity. And here's where it gets dark. Research shows that people who see money as a status symbol report being less satisfied with their finances. They buy expensive things to prove something to others, and because they're so focused on the signal, they don't monitor what they're actually spending. The irony will break your heart. The harder you try to look wealthy, the more you guarantee you'll never actually become wealthy. Every BMW lease payment is money that could be compounding in the market. Every designer purchase is shares you didn't buy. Every status symbol has a hidden price tag, measured in decades of lost growth. Let me show you the real cost. If you buy a $30,000 car instead of an $80,000 car, that $50,000 difference invested at 7% annual returns becomes $270,000 over 25 years. You're not spending $50,000.
You're spending $270,000 of your future self's money. Nobody tells you this when you're signing the lease.
A 2025 study found that 62% of millionaires still budget carefully even after they've crossed the $1 million mark.
They clip coupons. They shop sales. They avoid waste.
Because they know the habits that build wealth are the same habits that protect it. But looking wealthy creates problems that looking poor avoids completely. Cybercriminals target visible wealth. Research shows 6.4% of regular people experience identity theft. That number jumps to 8.1% for people with over $1 million in assets. Affluent Americans are 43% more likely to be victims of identity theft than average people.
When you look wealthy, you're painting a target on yourself. High net worth individuals face something called whaling attacks. These aren't mass scams.
These are surgical operations. Criminals build detailed profiles from your social media, your public records, your lifestyle signals. They impersonate your banker, your lawyer, your family.
They extract information or authorize transfers. Americans lost $10.3 billion to fraud in 2023. Almost half of that, $4.6 billion, came from investment fraud targeting wealthy people. Looking wealthy tells criminals exactly what you have. Looking average makes you invisible. Before we go further, if this is making you rethink everything you thought you knew about money, hit that subscribe button. And drop a like if you want more content that actually tells you the truth. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people who need to hear this. But it's not just criminals you need to worry about. It's everyone around you. When you drive a luxury car, people assume you can afford luxury everything. They expect you to buy expensive dinners. They expect you to pick up the tab. They expect you to live in a way that matches the signal you're broadcasting. When you live in an expensive neighborhood, everyone around you is spending at a higher baseline. Your expectations inflate to match theirs. Your normal becomes their normal, and their normal is financially unsustainable. Status is always relative. Research proves this. You only feel successful compared to the people around you. In high inequality environments, this comparison becomes vicious. Everyone's trying to signal just a little bit higher than the person next to them. The person driving the beat-up Honda doesn't deal with any of this. Nobody expects them to fund dinners. Nobody assumes they should pay more. Nobody resents them for having more than they deserve. They move through the world with social invisibility, and that invisibility is priceless. High net worth people report something researchers call the trust paradox. The more wealth they accumulate, the less they trust the people around them. They can never be sure if someone likes them for who they are or what they have. The person who looks middle class while quietly holding wealth doesn't have that problem. Every relationship is authentic. Every friendship formed without the filter of money. Nobody's calculating what they can get from you. Every relationship is authentic. Every friendship formed without the filter of money. Nobody's calculating what they can get from you. UAWs, under accumulators of wealth. This has nothing to do with how much you earn. Everything to do with what you do with it. Here's the formula. Take your age, multiply it by your household income, divide by 10. That's what your net worth should be. If you're 40 and earning $150,000, you should have around $600,000 in net worth. If you're below that, you're a UAW. You're spending instead of building. UAWs live well. Nice houses, nice cars, nice vacations. They're often doctors, lawyers, and high-earning professionals. They understand compound interest in theory, they just don't practice it. Their spending comes from what researchers call the better-than instinct. Every purchase is a competition. Better car than the neighbor? Better watch than the colleague? Better vacation than the friend? These are million-dollar choices. Because if they hadn't made that choice, they'd have over $1 million. The research gives a brutal example. A couple who smoked 3 packs a day for 46 years. The cigarettes cost more than their house by $33,000. If they'd invested that money instead, they'd have over $2 million. Status spending works the same way. You're not buying a car. You're erasing your future. So where does this programming come from? Why do we believe we need to look successful? Stanley and Danko found that young people are taught from birth. If you have money, you spend lavishly. If you're not showing it, you don't have it. This message comes from everywhere. TV shows where everyone lives in apartments they couldn't afford. Social media where everyone's performing a life they can't sustain. Advertising that promises buying this thing will make you that person. The message is constant and consistent. Success is visible. Wealth has a look. If you want respect, you need to display it. This is a lie, but it's a lie with devastating consequences. Someone who believes it will spend everything they earn maintaining an image. They'll finance a lifestyle that signals success while destroying their actual financial foundation. They'll hit 55 with expensive things and no security. The person who rejects it invests while everyone else performs. They compound while everyone else displays. They hit 55 with freedom everyone else will never know. And something's starting to shift in the culture. Quiet luxury is trending. Bain & Company's 2024 report shows affluent consumers moving away from conspicuous consumption toward longevity and craftsmanship. Stealth wealth is becoming the new status symbol. A 2024 survey found 52% of shoppers prefer influencers who show practical luxury instead of aspirational excess. After the show Succession ended, searches for subtle luxury brands exploded, not because of logos, because of the opposite, wealth that only insiders recognize. This isn't just fashion. This is a cultural recognition that visible wealth costs more than it's worth.
Here's what changes when you stop trying to look rich. Every negotiation tilts in your favor. A car dealer treats the Honda driver differently than the Mercedes driver.
A contractor quotes differently based on what they think you can afford. Warren Buffett said he never worried about being overcharged because nobody knew he had money. His ordinary appearance was negotiating leverage. Service providers price based on perceived wealth. Looking rich means paying the rich person tax. Looking average means paying the standard rate.
Over a lifetime, this compounds into serious money. The workplace dynamics shift too. Coworkers who think you're struggling treat you as an equal. Bosses who think you need the job assume you're hungry. Clients who think you're modest don't resent your rates. The moment you signal wealth, everything changes. Coworkers wonder why you're still working. Bosses question your motivation. Clients think you're overcharging.
The person who looks middle class while being quietly wealthy has an impossible advantage. They look like they need the job while having the security of not needing it. They can take risks desperate people can't take.
They negotiate from hidden strength. Family relationships stay clean when wealth is invisible. Research found that adult children who receive money from wealthy parents accumulate less wealth themselves.
The more they receive, the less they build. It sends a message, you can't do this on your own. Parents who look wealthy face constant requests.
Children expect inheritance instead of building themselves. Extended family develops expectations or resentments. Parents who look average while being quietly wealthy avoid all of this. Children expect inheritance instead of building themselves. Extended family develops expectations or resentments. Parents who look average while being quietly wealthy avoid all of this. Research on hedonic adaptation shows that buying expensive things creates temporary happiness spikes that fade fast. The new BMW feels amazing for weeks. Then, it's just your car.
The watch impresses for months. Then it's invisible. Every status purchase delivers less and less emotional return, while permanently reducing your wealth.
But invisible wealth works differently. A growing net worth creates a constant background hum of security that doesn't fade. You know you can handle anything.
You know you can leave any situation. You know your future is protected. That security changes everything. Decisions become less desperate. Relationships become less transactional. Anxiety becomes manageable. The person performing wealth feels constant pressure to maintain the performance. Every year requires new purchases to prove they're still successful. The treadmill never stops. The person with invisible wealth opted out completely. Their identity isn't tied to consumption. They don't need to prove anything.
And the compounding effects create an unbridgeable gap. Someone earning $200,000 who saves 25% accumulates $50,000 per year. Over 25 years at 7% returns, that becomes $3.4 million. Someone earning the same $200,000 who saves 5% while spending the rest on performance accumulates $10,000 per year. Over 25 years, that becomes $680,000. Same income, 5 times the wealth. The first person looks average. The second looks successful. The first person has freedom. The second has memories of nice things. Both made choices. Only one made choices that multiplied. So what does this actually look like? You don't have to look poor. You just have to stop looking rich. Buy the car that's reliable and cheap to maintain. A used Honda with 50,000 miles will run for another 150,000 miles and costs a fraction of a luxury vehicle. Live in the house that fits your family comfortably without impressing anyone. Square footage doesn't grow. Investment accounts do. Wear clean, well-fitting clothes without logos. The people whose opinions matter don't care about brands. The people who care about brands don't matter. Take the difference and invest it. Every month, every year, automatically. Watch what happens when you stop burning money on performance. Watch what happens when you redirect it into assets that compound. You'll hit a point where your investments generate more income than your job. You'll hit a point where work is optional. You'll hit a point where money stops causing anxiety. And nobody will know. You'll still look normal, you'll still blend in, but you'll have something most people chase their entire lives without catching. Freedom. Success isn't what you can afford to buy. Success is what you can afford not to buy. Success isn't the things you own. Success is the choices you have because you didn't buy those things. That Honda Civic in the parking lot represents something most people will never understand. It represents choosing compound growth over social approval. It represents building actual security instead of performing fake success. The people who look at that car and feel superior are the same people who will work until they physically can't because they have no choice. The person driving it could walk away tomorrow. Looking poor is strategic. It protects you from criminals. It protects your relationships from corruption. It gives you leverage in every negotiation. It keeps your children motivated. It provides psychological security that doesn't fade. It compounds your wealth without social pressure. The cost? Some people will underestimate you. That's not a bug. That's the entire point. The goal was never to impress strangers. The goal was always freedom. Every millionaire driving a Toyota figured out something most people never learn. Wealth isn't what you show, it's what you keep. Next time you see someone in a beat-up Honda, remember this. They might be struggling, or they might be one of the few who understood the game. You'll never know by looking, and that's exactly how they want it. If this shifted how you see wealth and success, subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button. Share this with someone who's drowning in the performance. The truth isn't glamorous, but it's the only thing that actually works. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.